Hello, good morning everyone. We're about to start on our tutorial for English um, to prepare you for the college entrance test. I believe everyone here is a grade 12. So we will start the tutorial by introducing myself. By the way, this is the CET private review and my name is Nathaniel Alviso. So probably you're attending the Nathaniel Alviso tutorial. So a brief introduction about me, your tutor. I'm an elementary valedictorian, and I finished elementary in just 5 years. Way back, they have the acceleration program for gifted students, and I'm one of the recipients. So I got accelerated from grade 4 to grade 5. Took it in just 1 year. High school, I'm a DOST scholar of Philippine Science High School, main campus, garnering a percentile on the DOST test of 74%. That means I'm good enough to study in the main campus because if you got a 63% below, then you're only good enough to study in the regional branch of Philippine Science. I'm also a director's list during high school. That means a general weighted average of 1.5 and above. That's with flat 1 as the highest. IQ is 129, so I believe I can help you with regards to your math, English, science review needs for your CET. So that is my yearbook when I'm your age. Before we do not have grade 12. Grade 10 we graduate already. So that's my high school yearbook photo. College, attended University of the Philippines, Diliman, still a DOST scholar for the second time around. So I've been a DOST scholar for 5 years. And I have taken DOST test twice, one in high school and one in college, and passed both of them. Also a Dean's Lister in UP, again, 1.5 and above general weighted average. Studied for 5 years BS Electrical Engineering, which means that I can help you with your math, because electrical engineering is engineering with the most math compared to civil engineering, mechanical engineering, where you can probably see what you're working on. Mechanical engineering, you're working with machines. Civil, you're working with buildings, but with electrical, you cannot see electricity. So the way to study electricity is using mathematical functions. So I know my math really well. Joined Quiz B in UP, won second place, Science Quiz B, so I know my science. Aside from the fact that I am an alumni of Philippine Science High School. I also know my general knowledge. I won second place through National Rizal Quiz B in Baguio. What else? In English, been a so this is my graduation pic in college. If you will search my name in Google, probably what will come up is the mother that dies in Manila, which was taken from my Facebook account. So it will, flood all the search results. But if you will go to the probably page 6, you will see there my name when I do my science research in Philippine Science High School. My interview with ABS-CBN and other channels. My profession as an English proficiency trainer, so I know my English. I've been teaching English since 2015, so that's 5 years. You may also see me being the pioneer in the Mobile Robotics Laboratory of the University of the Philippines. That's my name in there. Batch 95, I'm the first to build the microcontroller-based self-charging mobile robot. And that ends my short introduction. So today I will start teaching you with the English review. Normally, when I teach English, I need 100 hours of teaching. But since this is only a review for your exam, I'm hoping that you already know some of your English. But we will review. We will only tackle English for 10 hours. So that's 5 sessions, 2 hours each. So imagine the amount of information that you will have to take in, right? It's like, the host of the fireman, giving you all the information, and you must be able to take all in. Don't worry if you cannot, catch up. You can self-study because we really need supplements with regards to your review, especially in English, math, and science, okay? You cannot take all the time reviewing. You also have to attend your class. So that ends my short introduction. We will now go to the first lesson, which is a review of the parts of speech. Hold on for one moment. Let me, all right, so this is the first module, parts of speech. I know you're familiar with them, but we will review the parts of speech so that we will be able to identify how they function in a sentence. Most of your English questions in your college entrance tests are basically finding errors in a sentence. So if you do not know how each part of the speech function in a sentence, then you will have a problem, which I would like to address by giving you a short review of the parts of speech, which are basically, you know them since, I believe, since elementary, they introduce you to the parts of speech. So they are the noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. I know you're familiar with this. But in the college entrance exam, the type of questions is not knowledge-based, or it's not simple memorization. If you believe that you pronounce all of these, memorize them by heart, if you believe you can pass the test by just memorizing, then you are very wrong. Okay? To be able to pass the college entrance test, you must be able to apply all these learnings that you have and apply that in a different setting or a different set of sentences. You will be presented with different sentences and you will be asked to find out what are the errors. They might give you relationship in words and ask you to find an analogy. So if you do not have a basic understanding of the parts of speech, then you're in trouble, okay? We will change that during this lesson. So I hope that everyone will follow this review. So let's begin with noun. So nouns are the words that we use if we will name an animal, person, idea, place, or thing, okay? Nouns and pronouns are very important in a sentence because we use them when we are identifying the subject of the sentence or what we are talking about. Remember the two parts of your sentence, the subject and the predicate, right? So your nouns always appear in the subject, okay? And also, in the subjects of your sentence, we also use pronouns, which are basically, morphologically speaking, have the same function as nouns, except that they are different from nouns because they replaces the nouns. So instead of mentioning my noun over and over again, since that noun is my subject, like say, for example, me, you're talking about me. Nathaniel Alviso is your math tutor. Nathaniel Alviso also teaches English. Nathaniel Alviso also teaches science. So that's very redundant to hear. So we use pronouns instead. So I would say Nathaniel Alviso teaches English. He also teaches math. And at the same time, he also reviews you with your science subject. So here I use pronouns to replace Nathaniel Alviso so that I will only mention my name only once in a sentence. So pronouns are also very important. So examples are she, which is the nominative form, and her, which is the objective form. We will differentiate that later. Them or they, that's nominative them, objective they. It refers to a thing, okay? So if it's not a person, you do not say he or she if you're referring to a bicycle, okay? We use it. Now we go to the third part of parts of speech, which is the adjectives. Sometimes your subjects comes with a description, right? Like if I say, let me take a look at some of my students. Oh, Sheila. Sheila eats snacks. Okay, so that's a complete sentence, right? Now I want to add adjective. Let me say pretty. So I will say pretty Sheila eats snacks. So the pretty there is an adjective because it describes my subject, which is a noun, a proper noun rather, proper noun Sheila. Okay, so that's the function of your adjectives. If it describes a noun or pronoun, then it's an adjective. All right, verb. Again, I believe you're familiar with verbs, but I think that you do not know how important verb is in a sentence. And do you know that verb, the subject of verb is the most difficult concept to teach in my 5 years teaching English. By the way, I teach teachers after they pass the LPT, Licensed Professional Teacher Exam. They will have the English Proficiency Test, the EPT. So to be able to pass that, they train under me. So the most difficult concept to teach to them is the verb, because we have a lot of confusing rules in English that involves verbs, like the subject-verb agreement, the verb tenses and aspects. So I hope I can teach you that concept, because firm knowledge of your verbs will help you answer your English entrance test. So verbs are action words, but not all the time, okay? In life, sometimes you are referring to an action, like right now you're studying, right? That's an action. It takes some form of movement. You get your pencil, you grab a piece of paper to write your notes. So that's action. There's movement. But there are also chances where you will refer to the state of things. State is it could be the mental state or the state of being. For example, right now you are grade 12. So grade 12, and then college, first year college. So those are states. Your grade level are your states. Now, the thing that you're going to do to get from grade 12 to enter college, so that's your action. See, action and state are connected. In fact, in the English sentence, they are just termed as or described by using verbs, okay? So we have examples of verbs like, let's take a look at my slide. Ben caught all the Pokemon. So here it's an action, okay? He thought the battle against Kelvin was fierce. Again, this is an action. Thinking, even if you're not moving, your brain cells are firing up, so it's an action. Okay. Ben is now the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. Here, there's no action. It's a state, meaning after all the actions, all the battles, and he won everything, he is now in this state wherein Ben is on top. So I use another verb, which is not an action word, but it is still a verb, and this is what we call the linking verb. Ben is now the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. Get it? Of course, you will get it because this is just a review. Now, if I have a word in a sentence and it's not describing a noun or pronoun, therefore, by definition, it's not an adjective. So what is it? So we call that the adverbs. And by definition, adverbs describe verbs. It describes adjectives and also describes another adverb. Let's take a look at this example. Girl runs quickly. So your subject is the girl. We're talking about the girl. And my verb is runs. But I want to tell you what is the method of running. Okay, so I want to add additional information. I want to describe the verb runs. So I use, because running, it could be quick or it could be slow, right? So here I want to tell you that running is quick. So I will use the adverb quickly. The girl runs quickly. Okay. Sometimes adverbs can also describe an adjective. Like here, mango. The one that describes mango is the adjective sweet. Okay, sweet mango. So this is the adjective. But the word very is not describing mango, because you cannot have a sentence to say this is very mango, right? But you say this is a very sweet. So very is now describing sweet because there are levels of sweetness, right? Sometimes just a little sweet, then most of them sour, especially if the mango is not yet ripe. Or sometimes it's ripe already, so it's no longer sour, it's very sweet. Especially the Guimaras mango, which is the sweetest mango in the world. I want to describe the adjective sweet and tell you that it is on a higher level of sweetness, then I would use the adverb very. This is a very sweet mango. And third, you need to learn about adverbs. It can also describe a fellow adverb, like here. Clearly is an adverb that describes reads. So he is reading, Peter is reading, and it's clearly, meaning you can understand very well. We also have the preposition. So preposition is those words that we use to connect a noun to the rest of your sentence, and the function of that is to identify the position. That's why we call it preposition. The position or the relationship of that noun to the rest of the sentence. For example, I have the subject Rosie and the verb walk. So Rosie, this is the name of the hen. Okay. Now I have here another noun, which is the haystack. See this on the picture? I hope everyone is seeing the updated picture on the slide. So the haystack, I want to identify the position or the relationship of this noun haystack to the rest of the sentence, which is this hen walking. So if I use over, Rosie walked over the haystack, then that means that the relationship is the hen flying above. So this haystack is under, right? I could also use the preposition through, okay? Rosie walked through the haystack. That means, so this is Rosie, she walked, and then she make a small opening inside the haystack and she walked through it. Okay. You could also say Rosie walked into the haystack. So that's again a different relationship, because when you say through, Rosie enters here and then gets out of here through the haystack. But if I say Rosie walked into the haystack, so she enters and then does not come out. See the importance of preposition. If I change the one preposition, it changes the meaning of the entire sentence. Anyway, again, we will discuss this in detail. We also have conjunctions. Okay. Basically, conjunctions just connects two words or two phrases. Okay, it could either join sentences or it could sometimes join words. And we will discuss this again later. For example, we have two subjects and they are doing the same action. So they have just one predicate. So I will just use and then make it a compound subject. So I use a conjunction to connect. Like say, for example, instead of me saying Evan is reviewing English, Kay is reviewing English. So that's two sentences, but they share a common predicate, which is reviewing English. So I will just say Evan and Kay are reviewing English. So I use and. So that is basically the function of conjunctions in your sentence. Instead of making it a compound subject, I could also connect the two sentences. Evan is reviewing English and Kay is, let's say, eating her snacks. So I cannot make them share the same action because they are doing two different actions. Therefore, two different sentences, but I can combine them into one by just adding the word and. More on this later. And the last parts of speech are the interjections. These are parts of speech that are unique because they can stand alone, meaning you do not need to have a subject, you do not need to have a predicate. They can just be just one expression and it's one whole sentence. Like the word wow. You passed UP college entrance test, UPCAT, admission test, as we call UPCAT. Then you jump and say hurrah or yay. So those are interjections and they are a complete sentence on its own. So that ends our review of the parts of the sentence. We will now go right away to how we use them to build a sentence. So we will discuss the sentence and its parts. And of course, I know that you already know the two parts of a sentence, right? You're already grade 12. Come on. That means you know subjects has, sentences have subject and predicate. So that's one thing we will discuss. Then simple subjects. You must have the ability to identify simple subjects, because when you are answering subject-verb agreement in your college entrance exam, you must identify the simple subject, because sometimes they will trick you. They will give you a very long sentence so that you will have trouble identifying whether your subject is plural or singular. They do that sometimes. So you must be able to identify the simple subject. Simple predicates are just the verbs. Okay, we will deal with that later. Sorry. Of course, we have the verb phrases, verbs that are more than 2 words. Compound sentence parts. I've mentioned one earlier, the compound subjects, right? We'll mention the kinds of sentences. Sometimes subjects are not mentioned before the verb. That's what you need to know. Sometimes they are in unusual order, and they are still correct. They might trick you into believing there's an error in the sentence, where in fact it is just in unusual order and is correct. We will also discuss subject complements. Complements for the objects of verbs. And then last is the fragment and pronouns. All right, let's start on the sentence. So basically, we use a sentence to share ideas. So one sentence means one complete idea, okay? And we will use a group of words in order for us to complete or express a complete thought. So you know this. It contains a subject and a predicate. So what is a subject? So a subject is, if we say a complete subject, it includes all the noun as well as the adjectives that describes it. Okay, let's take a look at an example. There you go. Many students review CET at home. So here you have students and described by the adjective many. So many students is your complete subject, okay? Subject, it means that what we are talking about. We're talking about students that are more than one. So I use the adjective many. Right now, many of you are reviewing set at home because you can't go out. It's COVID. And then we go to the predicate. The complete predicate will include the verb and all the other words that will complete the meaning of the verb. Okay, so if my subject is many students, then my complete predicate is the verb review. That's all the other words that will complete the meaning of review. Okay, so those words are the noun CET. That's a noun. We call this the direct object. We have the preposition at, and we have another noun, home, which is the object of the preposition at. So here, guys, we have an adjective, we have a verb, we have 3 nouns, we have a preposition, okay? And the 3 nouns are contributing a different function in this sentence. Student here is the nominative noun, meaning it is the one doing the action of review. CET is the direct object, meaning it is the one receiving the action review. And home is the object of the preposition, which tells you that you guys are inside your house, okay? Don't worry, guys, we will discuss that in detail. If you hear me mentioning complex lessons that are not yet related to this, don't worry, we will get back to that. So this is your complete predicate. Now, simple subject, it's very important for you to determine what is a simple subject, because that's the one that we will use when we are trying to match our subject to the verb. Remember the subject-verb agreement? Single subject needs single verb. How do you know if it's single or plural? You look for the simple subject, and that is the noun without the adjective. So So if you have subject, many students, remove the adjective, and you have the simple subject. Sorry about that. This is my second class, so it's hard on my throat to speak continuously. All right, so simple subject, and then we also have the simple predicates. So if we have the whole predicate phrase containing the verb, the simple predicate is simply the verb. And I want you guys to know the importance of verbs because all sentences contains verbs. All sentences contains a predicate, and sometimes a sentence can have or might not have a subject, especially if it's an imperative or a command. So there will be no subject because the command in a command the subject is implied. More on that later. So this is your simple predicate, the verb. Of course, if the verb contains more than 2 words, we call that the verb phrase. So we have a main verb and we have a helping verb. And we need a helping verb, especially when we are in the subject of tenses, when we are doing the progressive and the perfect tenses. You will need helping verbs, okay? That will change the meaning or the tense of the main verb. We also use modal verbs to sometimes change the level of politeness. Like here, in the example, the verb phrase is can review. The main verb is review. Can is a modal verb, okay? Don't worry, we will discuss that later. But for now, it is sufficient for you to know the identifications of the phrases and the words that I'm mentioning. Because I will mention this over and over and over again during the review. So again, when I say compound subject, there are 2 nouns that are doing the same thing or that share the same predicate. So here, students, many students and tutors review set at home. The noun tutors and the students tutors and the students are doing the same thing, which is review set at home. So we have here a compound subject, and for me to be able to do that in a sentence, add a compound subject, I use the conjunction and. So now you know one of the importance of using the conjunction. Those are compound subjects. And I could also have just one subject and multiple verbs. So if my verb review and eat share the same subject, meaning there is only 1 or 2 persons doing those 2 verbs, then I can put them into one sentence and just use a compound verb. So this is different from the verb phrase where you have 2 verbs, 1 modal and 1 main verb. This is 2 main verbs. One is review and one is eat. And I use another conjunction and to form one sentence. The students review and eat during lessons. And that is true, my first class. Some of them are eating just so they will not, I don't know, get bored discussing 2 hours of English. Don't worry, guys. Teaching language is a very boring subject, okay? So if you need some things to keep you awake during these lessons, it's okay for me, okay? Just don't sing with your mic on because it will, you know, it will be heard by everyone and it will interfere with the lessons. All right, so those are compound verbs, review and eat. And this will make the entire predicate. review, and eat during lessons. Who are doing those? The students. Okay. Now I want you guys to also become familiar with the kinds of sentences. So if it's declarative, so we make a statement and it always ends in a period. And here the subject always appear before the verb. So the doer is mentioned first, and then the action, and then the rest of the verb phrase. But if it's interrogative, we change the structure and ends the statement with a question mark. And here, the subject will not appear before the verb. Sometimes it is between two verb phrase, or sometimes after the verb phrase. We'll have an example of that later. Now, if I'm giving a command, imperative, sometimes I do not need to mention the subject because sometimes it's implied. So say, for example, if I say, be careful, and I'm looking at Jane Tamayo, then I do not need to say, Jane Tamayo, be careful, because that will be redundant. My nonverbal cues, me looking at her and then telling her, be careful, that is enough for me to convey my command. So here you will see a sentence, be careful, without the subject. But in truth, there is a subject in there, which is not mentioned, okay? And you might be tricked by this. They will give you a sentence, find the error in this sentence. So you will see 3 sentences, all are correct, and then you see 1 sentence that do not have a subject. So you will select that as the error. Then turns out it's an imperative sentence that does not need a subject. So the correct answer is no error, and you made a mistake. So I want you to be very careful with imperative. Of course, exclamatory, it shows strong feeling and it ends in the exclamation point, okay? And this is where you sometimes use the interjection, which are standalone sentence because it can exist, the sentence can exist with just 1 word of expression like wow, okay? Aray. So if you get hurt, you say aray, and that's a complete sentence. Again, in the interrogative, the subjects is in the unusual order because it is not before the verb, okay? So here, the usual sentence, if it's in the declarative, is the school does offer e-learning subjects, right? Subject first, the school, what am I talking about? And then the verb phrase does offer, and then the object of the direct object, e-learning subjects. So verb first, but if it's a question, we jumble the structure. The school, your subject, in the sentence is now between the modal verb does and the main verb offer. There you go. Does offer is your verb phrase. And the subject is in the middle. And again, commands in the imperative, you is dropped. So in the sentence, answer the diagnostic test. This is a correct sentence, even if there's no mentioned subject, okay? If at the end of this tutorial, I tell you guys, answer the diagnostic test, then the subject there is you. I did not mention it, but it's already implied because I'm talking to you, okay? So this is the implied subject, you. It's not mentioned, but we call this the paralanguage. The body language is speaking as a complement of your spoken language. Answer the diagnostic test, and then I'm looking at you. So you are the subject of this sentence. Now we go to the use of verbs as a linking verb. So if it's a linking verb, there's no action. I'm referring to a state of one subject. If it's a person, then I'm using a complement of that subject, which either renames or describe the subject. So if it's describing the subject, then we will use adjective, because again, by definition, adjectives are words that describes a noun or pronoun. If I rename, then we will use another noun as a complement. For example, Evan. Evan is a student. So the complement of Evan in the sentence is student. And student and Evan are just one person. You guys get it? Or if I use an adjective, Evan is handsome. So handsome is an adjective and it complements the name or the person Evan. Okay. Or if I refer to all of you as tutees, the one receiving the tutorials are intelligent, then I use the adjective intelligent to complement the subject tutees, and I use a linking verb. Now you may be familiar with the be verbs as the linking verbs, like be, the are, is, was, where, am. But there are linking verbs that are, you know, action verbs as well. Like, so subject, duties, linking verb, this is the linking verb. Intelligent is the, we call this the predicate adjective because it's an adjective. Now, if it's a noun, we call that the predicate noun, okay? So it's not defined, it's not describing because I'm not using an adjective, but instead it renames or defines. For example, my duties are students, okay? So students and duties are the same bunch of people, okay? I just renamed you guys. You are duties when you attend my tutorial, and then when you go to your schools, you are students, but you are the same bunch of people, okay? I just rename you guys, therefore, students is the predicate noun complement of your subject duties. Again, subjects, predicate noun, and then it defines, so we use the linking verb. Now, become here is an action word, but here it is functioning as a linking verb. Because if you will look at the sentence, my subject is duties, and then DOST UP scholars are the same bunch of people as these duties. I hope all will be true. This sentence will apply to all. My duties become DOST / UP scholars. Okay? Here become simply renames duties. 1 year from now, you are DOST UP scholars. So I just sort of rename. After you pass the test, you're renamed into scholars. But you are the same bunch of people. That's why we call this the predicate noun, which is a subject complement. So again, if we have a predicate noun, we have the predicate adjective, which is the subject complement in the adjective form. Students look smart. Smart is an adjective and it describes students. And I use the linking verb look. Again, this is not a be verb. I could say students are smart. That's a correct sentence, but just to tell you guys that linking verbs are not simply the be verbs. They could be an action verb as well, but functions as a linking verb. I use the word look. Students look smart. Right. Again, that's a review. So do not be surprised if we're really moving fast in this tutorial. After that, we will now go to the appositive phrase. When we say appositive, the root word there is the apposition. So when you have phrases that is lying next to another phrase, we call that in apposition. So if it's a noun and hold on. Right, sorry about that. You just informed me that the slides are not moving, but that was a problem earlier, right? So there's no problem right now. All right. So if we are referring to a noun, so if we're referring to a noun and there's a noun next to it, then chances are they are appositive. They are one and the same. I'll give you an example. So again, the definition, position next to that noun. So in apposition, and we term that appositive. If there are adjectives before the noun, then it's a phrase, so we call a positive phrase. But if it's just a noun, then we just say appositives. For example, one fish, two fish. That's the title of a book. So this is my subject. I'm talking about one fish, two fish. And then we have another noun in the sentence, book. Although I use my possessive pronoun and adjective favorite, and then the object of the preposition, Dr. Seuss, preposition by, but my other noun is simply the book, okay? And then book, sorry about that. Book and one fish, two fish are just one and the same thing, okay? I'm referring to the same book. You guys get it? So we can say here that favorite book is the appositive of one fish, two fish, my subject in the sentence. Okay, let's analyze them more. So here, one fish, two fish, a favorite book by Dr. Seuss is the only book I have read completely on my own. So there's only one book. I'm not talking about two different books, but I have two nouns here. The first one is the subject, and then the second one is the appositive, okay? And we could classify them as essential or non-essential. There are appositives that we cannot remove from the sentence, and there are appositives that it's okay to remove because they are just, you know, additional information that are not important. How do we determine? So again, if it's necessary, say for example, how do we know if it's necessary, a positive? We can perform two tests, okay? For me, if I'm reading a test in English, my shortcut is I look if there's no comma, that's essential, okay? But for you to understand how we differentiate, let's discuss. Example, my favorite president, Harry Truman, led the American people through the end of World War II. There's no comma, therefore, the second noun, proper noun Harry Truman, this is an essential appositive.
No.
Okay. How do I know? Aside from not seeing any commas, how do I know that Harry Truman is an essential appositive? You can perform the first test, which is removing your appositive. Remember, Harry Truman is appositive of the subject president. Okay, we're talking about your favorite president. Okay, if I remove, the sentence will be, my favorite president led the American people through the end of World War II. This is a sentence with incomplete information, because you do not know which president led the American people through the end of World War II. You do not mention the name. Okay, and your favorite president may be different from my favorite president. So there's no way I can identify who you're talking about. Okay, so if you remove and there's some missing information, then that's an essential appositive. I could also perform the second test, which is change the appositive. Say, for example, I change it to Bill Clinton or Rodrigo Duterte. So I change it. My favorite president, Rodrigo Duterte, led the American people through the end of World War II. Here, the sentence becomes absurd, because President Duterte did not live through the World War II era, right? So again, you will know that it's an essential appositive, because changing the appositive will change the meaning of the sentence. Now, let's compare it with non-essential, because it might be confusing to you guys. For the non-essential appositive, I can remove the non-essential appositive and the sentence will still hold true. And the fastest way to determine whether it's essential or non-essential is if there are commas in the sentence, then it is non-essential. Like here, let me interchange. Instead of my favorite president as my subject, I will use the proper noun Harry Truman. So that will be my subject. So I say Harry Truman, and then my appositive, my favorite president. Of course, they are one and the same person. I'm talking about just one person. The second noun here is an appositive, but here it's non-essential because I can remove the appositive and the statement will still be complete. Let's see, Harry Truman led the American people through the end of World War II. See, it's still complete and factual. For the second test, I could change it with another appositive like Harry Truman, the president who succeeded FDR, that's Franklin D. Roosevelt, led the American people through the end of World War II. It still makes sense. So therefore, the appositive, my favorite president, is not essential. In fact, those are just, additional information that are not really important in the sentence. Because why do I care if it's your favorite president or not? Okay? What we are after is the fact that Harry Truman led the American people through the end of World War II. So again, that's the test of essential or non-essential appositives. Why are we studying this? Okay? Because basically we could just use simple sentences and not complicate our lives, right? Whether you like it or not, when you answer your English CET, the questions sometimes will be complicated. Otherwise, it will not be an entrance test. It will be a free-for-all, right? If all the answers are easy. That's why we need to learn some of the complicated form of sentences that you will encounter on your test. And one of that is the appositive. So again, if you don't need the commas, then it's essential. If you will need a comma, then you can remove. It's non-essential. So if you don't need the phrase, then if you don't need the phrase, meaning you can remove them, then put a comma. Or when we are speaking, sometimes we will say this gesture, which means that what we are about to say is really just an additional, but not really part of what we are intending to say. Okay. Now, what is the function of appositives? Sometimes we may have sentences that are, you know, several, and it becomes boring to read. Like, I'll give you an example. There you go. This sentence will follow grammar, and they are correct. Wilbur is the new class president. He is the president of the junior class. He met with his officers to plan fundraisers to offset the cost of the prom. So there's no error in this sentence. But we can make this more vibrant by removing the pronouns. Here, I apply the correct use of pronouns. I do not mention Wilbur all the time. I change it to the pronoun he. All right, so I follow grammar, but I can make this more vibrant by using appositive. Okay, so instead of the 3 sentences, I could convert them into, see, 3 sentences. I can just make it 1 sentence and make it more vibrant and interesting to read. So I'll just say, the president of the junior class, Wilbur, then appositive, the new class president met with his officers to plan fundraisers to offset the cost of the prom. See, by learning how to use appositives, you will be able to write longer sentences, which is not only more interesting, but easier to understand, right? And that ends the lesson for appositives. We will now go to another noun in the sentence. So appositive is another noun, right? Subject of your sentence is another noun or pronoun. Appositives is the same as a subject. It's just renaming, okay? Or adding additional information. But it's still a noun in the sentence. Now, there are other nouns that will appear after the verb, and they are called direct objects. What are they? So there are a group of words that names the receiver of the action of the verb. So if I am doing the action teaching, there must be some receivers of my action, right? In our context, the receiver of my teaching are you guys. So you are the direct object, the one receiving the action, okay? So I am teaching you. So there, the direct object is you. You are receiving the verb teaching, okay? Let's take a look at some example. Set takers, that will be you guys, okay? You're the subject. We're talking about you. Often borrow, that's the verb. Often is the adverb because it describes borrow, okay? Adverb. Borrow used reviewers. Reviewer is a noun. Used is an adjective that describes reviewers, meaning it's no longer brand new, the reviewers, okay? So the subject, set takers, is doing the action borrow, and the one receiving the action is the reviewers. You get it? Because when you borrow, you get the thing that you're borrowing. So your action of getting, the one that's receiving that action is the reviewers that you're borrowing. You guys get it? So it answers the question, what is being borrowed, or to whom? Borrow what? So it answers, the answer is reviewers. So that's your direct object. And then we can say, we can change the subject. Now the subject of my second sentence is the reviewers. That means it is no longer the direct object. The reviewers can help set takers. So now the verb phrase can help. The one that's doing this action is the knowledge and questions and answers that you will see in the reviewers. So your subject now is doing the action, reviewers, and who will receive that help? You guys. So you are now the direct object. Okay, so quick analysis. If it's before the verb, it's the subject, it's the doer. If it's after the verb, it's the direct object. I hope that's clear. So it answers help whom? The answer is takers. Here, the proper noun set, CET, college entrance test, is not a noun. We call this the possessive, the proper noun adjective of these direct object takers. Okay, remember our definition. If it is describing a noun or pronoun, we call that an adjective. All right. If we have direct object, we also have indirect object. And indirect objects are the one receiving the direct object. Remember, as a quick, recall for you, if it is receiving the action, then direct object. If it's receiving the direct object, then that's the indirect object. And usually, the indirect object is closer to the verb. Let's take a look at this example. So we, for example, me and my partners, we are lending reviewers to you guys, okay? So the verb is lent in the past tense. We are the doers, we, and we are also the subject of this sentence. And the one receiving this action lent is the reviewers, because it will be passed to everyone. So the action of passing to everyone, the one that's receiving that is the reviewers, right? They receive all the actions. And then the other direct object and the receiver of that direct object is, or are you guys, right? You're receiving the reviewers. Therefore, you are the indirect object, all right? For some, it's a walk in the park, it's a piece of cake, but some of you might not admit it, but according to my experience, some are getting confused with this, okay? So I will get back to this later. Since this is just a review, I hope you have tackled this before. So it's just a refreshing course. If not, then we will discuss this in details in our other modules. So indirect object is the students. Now we go to the last part of this module, which is the errors. in sentence construction. And one error is fragments. So again, this will appear in your CET English exam. Sometimes they might give you a very long sentence, and then you might think that there's no error in the sentence. They follow SBA, so on and so forth. And then you realize that it is lacking one part, either a predicate or a subject. And it's not an imperative statement. Therefore, you need to place in a subject. So you have to be very careful. This will appear in your exam. For example, the Aita people in Bicol. There's no verb. We have noun, people. We have Aita, which is an adjective describing people. We have the indefinite article the. We have the preposition in. We have another noun, Bicol, and we have no predicate. Remember predicate? It must have, or it must contain a verb, either an action word or a state of being, the be verbs or linking verbs. You might also have sentences like this. Build traditional homes called nipa houses. So you have the verb, you have traditional, adjective, you have homes, noun, you have another verb called, past tense, and then nipa, adjective, house, another noun, but you do not have the doer of the verb, which is the subject of the sentence. And this is an imperative sentence, a declarative sentence rather, so you must have a subject. Exception is when I'm giving a command, but this is not giving a command, so you must have a subject in here. So again, this is a fragment. So we can correct that by adding the doer in this sentence. So I could put in the pronoun they to refer to the Aita people in Bicol. So this will be the antecedent of the pronoun they. We will discuss that later when we are in the pronoun module, what antecedent mean. So here, the subject is they, and then my predicate. Build traditional homes called nipa houses. And that is a complete sentence. Now on the other extreme, so this is fragments. Sometimes you might also be presented with this problem, run-on sentences. There you go. So when you look at it, you will say, oh, there's a subject, there's a predicate. There are two subjects, two predicate, nipa house, one subject, I'm sorry, roof. That's your first subject. And walls, that's your second subject. You have two predicates, is made of palm leaves. This is made of palm leaves. This is a complement. Adjective, predicate adjective of the subject nipa house. Also, this is complement made of bamboo. Again, predicate adjective that describes the subject walls. Okay, then you might say, oh, no error. So you mark no error, and that's a mistake because this is a run-on sentence. You have two subjects, two predicates, and they are each independent. So to correct this, it's either you make them two independent sentences. The nipa house roof is made of palm leaves, period. The walls are made of bamboo. Or, and then here comes the importance of conjunctions. To correct this, but still retaining the one sentence construction, we use conjunction. And the nipa house roof is made of palm leaves and the walls are made of bamboo. So now we have a correct sentence by just adding a conjunction. So again, guys, I want you to practice on this. When we have extra time, we will have a practice answering set English questions. Activity, we will no longer do this because we need to run fast, okay? This will just take some of your time. So that will be the end of the first module on the parts of speech and how they are integrated to form sentences. I would like to end this with judge each day, not by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant. Okay, so it's not always getting things from your parents, maybe from your friends, but also what's more important is giving. Okay, giving out to others. That ends the discussion. I will give you a 3-minute bathroom break, and we will proceed to module 2. Okay, 3-minute bathroom break. When you go back, we will discuss nouns after 3 minutes, and we will discuss that in details. All right, so 3 minutes starts now. All right, so module 2 is different kind of nouns. Okay, I know nouns are basic. Okay, you've been introduced to use of nouns as the subject, as the direct object, indirect object as the appositives. We have mentioned the object of the preposition, and they take many forms, and we will discuss them one by one. Everyone is back. So there's only a 3-minute bathroom break. All right, by definition, it refers to a person, animal, place, thing. So this is the more complete definition: phenomenon, substance, quality, idea, and it's one of the basic parts of speech in many languages, and that includes English. Okay, so people, places, animals, things. You may also add idea. Okay. So sometimes your nouns will start with a capital letter, like Yellow Cab Pizza. So it's a brand, and we call that the proper noun because it's specific. Okay. If I say students, so it's not specific to any of you, so that's a common noun, non-specific. But of course, if I say Christine Joy Fernandez, then that's a proper noun because, of course, Christine starts with a capital letter and it's specific name one person. Okay. So we have the proper and common. We also have the concrete and the abstract. Concrete is nouns that we can perceive with our five senses, meaning you can see, or you can touch, you can hear, you can feel, and you can smell. So examples are bag, photographs, sand, or results monument. Okay. So that's concrete nouns, and abstract are those that are an idea, feeling, quality, or characteristics, things that we cannot perceive with our senses, like fun, wisdom, Christianism is a religion, of course. You cannot see religion. You cannot see love. Yes, you can feel love, but feeling love is not using the sense of touch. Okay, you do not use your skin to feel whether you love someone or not, right? You touch. Oh, there's love on the air. No, it's a feeling uh, using your heart. Okay, so again, that's abstract. Collective is when we are referring to a group of individuals and they are acting as a group. Okay. Now, collective nouns is very important to, be familiar because there's a lot of questions in CET that involves collective nouns, especially with subject-verb agreement. Okay. Because they love tricky questions, and you might be tricked into thinking that the collective noun is many, plural, so I will use plural verbs. Most of the time when they act as one body, you will use singular verbs. So be careful with your collective nouns. And we also have a part in the English CET where we have the analogy part, where you have to connect the, say for example, the relationship between wolves and pack. So that's a collection of wolves, it's a pack. So you need to, increase your vocabulary of collective nouns when it comes to a group of different animals. Like lions, group of lions, that's pride. Group of fish, that's school of fish, so on and so forth. Okay. Staff is a collective noun. So if you see a sentence that has staff with S, and then they ask you to identify the error, then do not look anywhere else. Once you receive or you see staff with S, that is the error. Because staff does not contain S on it because it's already a collective noun. Okay. What else? Same with committee. Flock, group, right? So that's a lot. Just familiarize yourself with it, okay? We will not spend more time on this. We also have compound nouns, and again, this is a favorite for CET takers or examiners because it consists of two independent nouns, and then when they are combined, they refer to a completely different noun, like girl and then friend. You combine them, it becomes girlfriend. And then brother-in-law, you combine them, it becomes brother-in-law. And the confusion here is, how do you make them plural? Okay, because here in brother-in-law, to make it plural, you add S to brother. You do not say brother-in-laws. You say brothers-in-law. Okay, but here grasshopper, you do not say grasses hopper. when you make it plural. You have to add the S at the end. Same with girlfriends. You don't say girl's friend to make it plural. You say girlfriends, grasshoppers, but brothers-in-law. So how do we determine? Just become familiar. There's no, hard and fast rule where to add the S. Okay, familiarity here is the key. Try to read more English novels, watch American movies, and you will become familiar with compound nouns and how they become plural. You can Google in English. So this is from the Really Learn English site. They list 30 English compound nouns. All right, eggplant is a compound noun. So we will now go to the other noun, which is the possessive nouns. So basically, those are nouns that show ownership or possessions. Now, possessive noun are nouns or words that are standalone. Okay, if you know the apostrophe S, if you add apostrophe S on a noun, it becomes possessive, right? But if there's a noun following it, then it's not a possessive noun anymore. Like, let's say, Ivan's ball pen. Okay, the noun there. Let's create a sentence. I see Ivan's ball pen. Ivan's is a possessive form of the noun Evan. Okay, but in the sentence, I see Evan's ball pen, it's not a possessive noun. It's an adjective. It is describing the pen, the ball pen, as the one belonging to Evans. If I want to make it a possessive noun, there shouldn't be a noun following it. So if I ask, whose ball pen is this, and then you answer, it's Evans, then that's the time Evans becomes a possessive noun. You have to know the difference because sometimes it might come up as a question. Okay, let's practice. Baby walked to the store late yesterday. What type of noun is store? So again, if proper, it should be a name of a store, right? And starts with a capital letter like pen shop. But since it starts with small letter, then it's just a common noun. There you go. I have my students answer this and they receive a feedback. But I will answer this for you because we're making a fast discussion. The committee met at noon. What type of noun is committee? So it's not proper because it's not a big, it starts with a big letter. It's not an abstract noun because it's not an idea. So it's a collective noun, okay? Now we have the Makati, which is starts with a big letter. So you know right away this is a proper noun, right? If you click common, then you will receive the feedback, wrong answer, okay? But that is for my other students, okay? So it's a proper noun and that is correct, okay? All right, I love this example. Mrs. Santos carried in the heavy boxes. What type of noun is boxes? Boxes is also a common noun. So this is correct. And then plural noun is also correct. And you will encounter this again and again in your college entrance test. There will be questions where 2 answers are correct, or sometimes all answers are correct, okay? Now, for you to get the right answer, you have to decide which is the best answer, okay? If in the exam you say, oh, boxes, a small letter, not specific, so you choose common noun, you will get a wrong answer. Yes, it's correct, but it's not the best answer. The clue here is the ES. See? You have an additional ES. So yes, it's common, but with the ES, there's an additional info that it's a plural noun. And you cannot argue, hey, it's common noun is also correct. Because you cannot talk to the checker of your CET exam test. Okay, so take that in mind. Okay, you may encounter questions with 2 or 3 correct answers, so you have to select the best. In this case, plural noun is the best answer, so you should select that. Same with this book without S, so that's a singular noun. Sherry's book. This is actually acting as an adjective, but this is a form of possessive noun acting as an adjective. Okay, this is not my slide. Okay, so that's why I'm just using this as an example. So Sherry's is possessive, but technically it's serving as an adjective in that sentence. The team has a game on Saturday. So this refers to a collection of people. Therefore, it's a collective noun. Everyone liked Mr. Fran's dog. Again, this is, Mr. Francis is describing this dog, telling you that this dog belongs to Mr. Francis. So technically it's an adjective in this sentence, but it's in the possessive form because there's an apostrophe S. So do not argue. You cannot go to the examiner and say, hey, technically this is an adjective. There's no correct answer here. Just select the one that you feel is the best answer, okay? Do not dwell on technicalities because your time is limited during the exam, okay? So unless you want to become lawyers, do not be overly excited with technicalities, okay? All right, everyone in Mrs. Guzman's car was late for school on Monday. We have so many nouns, so let's identify one by one. Everyone is collective, and then Mrs. Guzman is possessive. Car is common. School is also common, and Monday starts with capital letter is proper. There you go. So you have survived noun madness. A+, even if I'm the one who answered the questions, but I believe that you know the answers as well. But I know you can answer this because this is just a review. This is just child's play. If you think it's very easy right now, don't worry, it will get worse. All right, we'll discuss singular and plural nouns, okay? Because earlier I told you that singular and plural is not as easy as just adding S, okay? There are many ways to kill a cat, and there are many ways to make your English nouns plural, okay? So singular noun refers to only one. For example, this job could be dangerous. The driver only has one job, okay? And plural nouns are more than one, okay? So again, to make a noun plural, it's not as simple as just adding S. You could do add S, add ES, change F to V and add ES. Ending in Y, irregular nouns, ends in O, no change. There are many cases, so we will have a brief review one by one. Case one is the simplest. So you just add S. Song, plural, songs. Car, cars, plural. Dog, plural, dogs. And then game, plural, games. Very simple. Case two, if it ends in sh, ch, s, z, and x, it's awkward if you just add S. Like say box. If you just add S to make it plural, it will sound like box. See, it sounds weird. So we add ES to make it 2-syllable. Becomes boxes. Bus becomes buses. Flash becomes flashes. But still easy. If it ends in Y, yes, we add ES, but we change Y to I. Case number 3. Because if you do not change Y to I, then the baby will become baby-yes. Try will become tries, which is not correct. So with a Y, it's another case. Change Y to I to make it babies, tries, ladies. Case number 4. If it ends in O, then add ES. Echoes, heroes, potatoes, tomatoes. Again with ES. It will appear on your CET exam when it comes to identifying errors. They might give you a sentence that are it might seem that there's no error, but actually there's an error in the way the noun is transformed into the plural form. They might give you a word like potatoes without a. So if you're not very careful when you're reading the question, you might answer no error, but in fact, the potatoes is spelled without e. So this is where this review might come in handy. Case number 5. Again, F, we change to V and add ES. So thief becomes thieves, knife becomes knives, life becomes lives, selves, wolf, wolves. Case number 6. Oh, these are the irregular nouns. And this might also trick you when applying the subject-verb agreement. Examples are of course, we know children is the plural of child. But there are some words like oxen, and we might think that it's still singular. So we use a singular verb, and then you make a mistake. So oxen is the plural of ox. And many other irregular verbs, the only way, because there's no rule that apply to everything, so you will just have to familiarize with yourselves with how you make them plural when it comes to irregular verbs. For example, when you have food, you say feet, tooth, plural is teeth, but booth, the plural is booths. So it's not beef. Okay, again, that's why we are not applying a rule here. You just have to know how they are transformed into the plural form. Now, there are some words that are borrowed from foreign language, like Latin or Greek. So we follow the way they pluralize their nouns. So for example, criterion become criteria, phenomenon become phenomena. You may encounter questions such as, one phenomena is happening in the Philippines. So you might think that there's nothing wrong. One phenomena, and then you may maybe phenomena, the plural is phenomena. So using is as the linking verb is correct. So you answer no error, but there's an error there because you say one phenomena, which is not correct. It should be one phenomenon. Okay. Other words that have a different rule. Case number 8, cactus, stimulus, syllabus, nucleus, fungus. You change the us into the I to make it plural. So you make them cacti, stimuli, syllabi, nuclei, and fungi. If it ends in A and you make them plural, then from formula, the plural is formulae. From vertebra, the plural is vertebrae. Another irregular nouns, if it ends in IX, either you change that to CES or you add ES. So appendices, indices. And then the analysis, basis, crisis, hypothesis, parenthesis. To make them plural, you change the pronunciation of the last syllable into the long E So the plural of analysis is analyses. Basis, it's bases. Crisis, crises. That's how you, or for us speakers, for us to tell you that we're indicating the plural form, we prolong the E. So submit your hypotheses. So I'm expecting more than one hypothesis. But in the written form, you will see that they change in the spelling, okay? So I singular, to make it plural, you change the I into the E. You also have those that ends in IUM, bacterium, curriculum, datum, medium, memorandum, like social media, because we have Facebook, we have Twitter, YouTube, so there are so many medium. So we call it social media, okay? So it's a plural form. So do I say social media is very time consuming? The correct way is saying social media are time consuming. And then case number 13. All right, this will trick you into answering a sentence might be erroneous, like you see a sentence, two deer are crossing the street. So you will be asked, what is the wrong part of the sentence? And you will see that, two deer are crossing the street. So you will point to the noun deer. So this is wrong. Should be two deers are crossing the street. And you will get a wrong answer, because the correct answer there is no error, because two deer without S is in fact correct. Same with sheep, species, series. They do not change in form when you make them plural, okay? Or fish, also one fish, two fish, five fish. Do not say fishes, because that's not correct. Now there are nouns where there is no singular form, because they cannot function if there's only one. Like scissors. One scissor is the one blade. So for your scissors to function, there must be two blades that will oppose each other in order to make a cut. Measles, there's no measle, because measles, those are the blisters that appear on your skin, and they are more than one always. Tongs is the one that you use to pick hot charcoals. So again, there are two parts, one opposing each other in order for you to grab a hold of the hot charcoals. Same with tweezers. When you're picking small items, you use tweezers. Trousers are your pants. You cannot wear pants with only one leg. Okay. Same with shoes. It's always plural. I never heard of someone who is wearing just one shoe. Probably on the left shoe, and then the right foot is barefoot, not wearing any. So it's always plural. Again, singular and plural for compound nouns. So for compound nouns such as son-in-law, daughter-in-law, maid of honor, secretary of state, to make them plural, you add the S on the first noun, okay? Sons-in-law, daughters-in-law, maids of honor, secretaries of state. All right, so activity. So you write the plural form. We do not have time for this, but you know this already. So baby, you change Y to I and then add ES. All right, here I had a funny encounter with this. Tell the singular or plural form of the following, and I have one student who just read tell the singular or plural form. He thought they are all singular and you have to convert them into plural. So I receive answer for chairs, applying the rule. Nouns ending in S, you add ES to make them plural. So he gave me an answer of chairs with ES. Of course, that's not correct, okay? It's already in the plural form. You're supposed to make it singular. So chairs, I'm expecting chair, converted to singular. So again, follow instructions when you are answering questions in your CET. Essay will have a different rule compared to those that ends in Y but preceded by a consonant. You change Y to I, add ES. But if it's the Y is preceded by a vowel, you just add S. So turkeys, chimneys, toys, okay? Again, another differentiation when it comes to making the plural. So that ends our discussion for singular and plural verbs. So we'll now go to nouns that are derived from adjective. So you may have, or you may know different adjectives, and you can transform them into a noun by just changing the end of the word. For example, short, if I add age, it becomes shortage, and it becomes a noun. If I add ance to ant, I change. So brilliant, an adjective. If it becomes a noun, it becomes brilliance. Okay. Absent, absence. I could also add cy to make it noun. Like for the adjective normal, we can say normalcy. Or add dom for wise. I will put in wisdom. Of course, there's a stem change. Stem change means that the stem is wise, you remove E. It becomes wis, the stem. Then you add dom, wisdom. ION for cautious, adjective. Noun becomes caution. Okay. Perfect, I add ION, becomes perfection. We could also use ism for, let's say, modern. It becomes modernism. And now it becomes a noun. Or IST for extreme, it becomes extremist. I could also add NES, polite becomes politeness, sharp becomes sharpness. What else? RY, so if you're a brave person, that's a adjective. But if I say your bravery saves lives, so the verb saves, the one that carry that or performs that action is the bravery. Your bravery saves lives. We have also th for deep becomes depth, strong becomes strength, long becomes length. Or I could also add y. Or sincere becomes sincerity, y, ty, or ity. Modest becomes modesty. What else? If we have nouns that's derived from adjectives, we also have nouns that's derived from verbs, okay? And we do that by adding age. So for marry, verb, want to make it a noun, which is that the act of marrying, it becomes marriage, okay? For the verb approve, the noun is approval. For perform, I add ance, it becomes performance, okay? I could also add ation for excite, becomes excitation. Of course, a stem change. We remove the E and add ation, excitation. Obey, I remove the Y and add or change that to D. Becomes obedience. There you go. ION, like for here, deduction. So deduct is a verb, which is the act of, removing some parts from the whole, deduct. The act or the noun is deduction. Right, what's the nominal adjunctive compared to the passive adjunctive? The nominal adjunctive is when we convert a verb into a noun, the nominal adjunctive means that it is the doer of the verb. For example, the one who is bragging is called the braggart, and we do that by adding art or ard. Same with drink. The one who is drinking is either a drunkard or a drinker. Okay, that's what we call the nominal adjunctive. We change the verb into a noun, okay, and that noun is the doer of that verb. For example, you guys are studying, right? Study, you are the doer of the verb study. So if I add ent, you become nouns, becomes student, because you're doing the studying. For me, I'm teaching. I teach. Now, if I want to convert it into a noun, I add er because I'm doing it. I'm doing the teaching. So I'm a teacher. Okay? If you are doing the selling, you're the seller. Okay? If you are doing the copying, hopefully not during the exam, you're the copyist. Okay? Again, you could also use or add man for selling to become salesman. There are times when we do not do anything. Zero, no change. For example, I cook tinola. Okay, so cook is a verb, but if I'm referring to the noun, the person who is doing the cooking, you will call him also a cook. Okay, I'm a good cook. I cook tinola. So the noun cook and the verb cook has the same form. We do not make any changes whatsoever. Now this is the passive adjunctive, and that means that we're talking on about the verb that we transform into a noun, and that noun is not the doer, it is the receiver of that action. Okay, and the way we indicate that they are the receiver of the action is we add double E as the suffix. Okay, so for example, if I have the verb designate and you are the one receiving the designation, then you are the designee. Same with donate. So if you have your friend donate reviewers to you, so you receive the reviewer, you are the donee. Your friend who gave you the reviewer, the one who donate, is called the donor. Okay. Examine. Do not go to the CET exam and college entrance test and say you are the examiner, because you're not giving the exam, you are receiving the exam, so you are the examinee. Okay, so do not commit that mistake. Pay, if you are the one doing the paying, you're giving money away, you're the payer. But if you're receiving money, then you are the payee. Train, we're on a training right now. I am the trainer, I'm giving the training to you. I have the modules prepared. You are receiving the modules, you are looking at the screen, you are receiving the training, so you are the trainee. Same with tutor. I'm giving the tutorial, I am the tutor, I'm tutoring you, and you receive the tutorial, so you are the tutee. Okay, so that's how you identify whether the noun equivalent of your verb is either the receiver, passive adjunctive, or the giver of the action, nominal adjunctive. Sorry, what's that again? Yeah, nominal adjunctive versus the passive adjunctive. All right, so we've talked about singular and plural. There are nouns that does not have a plural form, and those are the non-count nouns. Like water, you cannot count water, right? So they do not have plural. So we can categorize nouns as either count or non-count. And when we describe count, it means you can, they are discrete. You can point 1, 2, 3, and you can count them. But you cannot count intelligence. Okay, there's an intelligence quotient, but it's a quotient and not a a discrete measure of how many brain cells you have inside your head. Okay, so it's non-count. Same with happiness. There's no 1 happiness, 2 happiness. It's just happiness. Okay. Of course, hamburger you can count. So the rule is, when you use a few, it always refers to a count noun. Okay, so a few bugs, a few stars. Like it's rainy season, so at night you will only see a few stars. So if during the test you will see finding errors like there's a little stars at night, then you answer no error, then you make a mistake. There's an error there. Instead of using a little, you should use a few stars because stars is count. But if it's not count, a little intelligence, a little music, then the word a little is in the correct usage. Same with many and much. You use many for count nouns and you use much for non-count. So do not use I see much dogs because that's incorrect. You say I see many dogs, I have many friends. And then for non-count, there is much rain yesterday or last week. So you can count rain, right? When you go out and then count them 1 by 1, you can. Okay, so you use much rain or a little rain. And then there's a lot of, which can be used either for both count and non-count nouns. Like a new car can cost a lot of money, or to gifts, which you can count. I wrap a lot of gifts for my family. Okay, so those are count and non-count nouns. We have this. Also, word usage, a few versus a little. So a few for count nouns. I have a few bananas. I have a few sweaters you can borrow. But if it's non-count, you use a little. A little money will help me. There's a little snow in the US today. Okay. So a little intelligence, a few bugs, a little music, a few stars. Now, for activities, they are non-count, okay? All right, activities, although you may count the number of basketball games or baseball games, or you can count the number of your homework, like you have 1 in math, 1 in English, 1 in science, or you can count dancing, like you have danced 2 sweet music, 1 tango, so on and so forth. As long as they are activities, they are considered non-count, okay? That means they only use singular verb. So be careful with that in the SBA rules. It's one of the sources of confusion. Like I have much homework that are hard. Where is the error there? It's the linking verb are. Okay, it should be is. I have much homework that is hard because homework is a non-count noun. So you only use singular. We will discuss that next time when we are on the subject-verb agreement rules, okay? There are so many rules in subject-verb agreement. It's the same as there are so many rules in making your noun plural in the English language, okay? Then we have the special cases. We have mentioned this before. So they do not change whether they're singular or plural. Fish, one fish, two fish. Let's say two fishes, okay? One deer, 20 deer. Let's say 20 deers, okay? That's not correct. How do we know whether they are special cases? Familiarize yourself, okay? It's very hard to, you know, just apply the general rule. You have to take note of the exceptions. There are just a few exceptions, so you will just have to familiarize with them, like fish, sheep, deer, and moose. All will not have S for plural. We have this F becomes V, thief becomes thieves, leaf becomes leaves. You know that already. So in this activity in the US, leaves fall. There are 50 students. We saw 2 deer on our walk. No S, okay? Everyone in my family needs to wear eyeglasses, always plural. Don't say wear eyeglass. That's not correct. 6-year-old daughter is missing 2 teeth. Don't say 2 teeths. That's not correct. Teeth. It's an irregular noun. And again, nouns that are always plural. Scissors, clothes. Unless you're wearing a one-piece bathing suit, you always wear more than one clothes. You have your underwear, you have your tops, and your pants or skirts. So always more than one. Same with shorts or shoes or pants. You do not wear pant, meaning there's only one leg. You do not wear shoe, where it's only left, and then your right foot is barefoot. It's always 2. So you always use shoes, okay? My shoes are shiny. Always plural. Let's say my shoes is expensive. That's not correct. It's always plural. Same with eyeglasses. My eyeglasses are expensive. Even if you're only holding one item. Okay, like Roselle Rojas eyeglasses. So my eyeglasses are clear. So always use the plural form, okay? Irregular, again, there's no way to know that unless you become familiar, okay? Vocabulary building. If it's borrowed from Latin or Greek, we follow their rule of making them plural, like medium to media, criterion, criteria, alumnus, alumni, okay? This is again another review. Vortex, vortices, again, borrowed nouns from Greek or Latin. We follow their rules. Theses, thesis, theses. Same, hypothesis, hypotheses, okay? By pronouncing, we can determine whether it's singular or plural. And that ends our discussion of the plural form. Next meeting, we will discuss pronouns. You might think it's easy, but there's a lot of pronouns around this. You might know the personal pronouns first, second, and third, but there are reflexive, there are demonstrative, there are indefinite pronouns, possessive, so on and so forth. So we will also discuss pronouns next time around. Okay, so we overextend 10 minutes because we have a technical issue, but basically that ends our second module. Next meeting, we will discuss all the other modules that you will need to form as your backbone of your knowledge, which will allow you to be able to answer properly your CET English tests. Right? So it's 5:40. And thank you for joining the tutorial. See you again next meeting. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So I'm about to turn this off and see you again next time. Hopefully we will not have a problem next time. And I hope you also do some readings with your pronouns, nouns, all the 8 parts of speech. And later on, we will also have a